Okay, day four. Day four and final day for identity security. If you're just joining us or you're watching us on YouTube, you know that we started this journey 3 weeks ago. This is the fourth week where we started learning Microsoft security, but very specific to identity, data, and AI. And for the last 3 weeks, we've been looking at identity security. And so today is the last week for it. How has it been? How has this past week been for you? In one word, or in more than one word, if one word cannot really even describe what identity management has unlocked for you so far, please, I'd like to see your reactions, in the chat. Please let me know how you feel. Has it made sense? Has it been, drop it in the chat. Let's interact with the chat. Let me know what this whole 3 weeks plus this new week that you're going to experience has done for you. Before you joined this program, did you even have any clue of what identity management was? Did you even understand what identity and access management? Be honest, since you joined this program, how much of your feeds and Google search have you seen that has popped up, because of the whole target audience, because you're Googling now and doing lots around IAM, you're going to be seeing things around, coming up in your feeds that you didn't even search for around identity security. So how many of that, good. People are saying informative, eye-opening, fantastic. I'm happy that we could get you there. It's okay to say stressful. It's okay to say stressful. I saw a meme, but I saw it after I've done my side. I wanted to put it. That meme talked about how different people think that what we do. And then the last place it says, what do I really do? You just show the face of the person screaming at his computer. I have a feeling a lot of you have screamed at your laptop this last 3 weeks. You have shouted and said, God, why me? Why me? What did I do? Is it my fault to even want to do this tech? Is it like this? Somebody called me and said, George, you people that have this thing, you don't have two heads. My mother would say you don't have two heads, so I must know this thing. Yes, comfort, you are already a professional. I beat my chest. I've done this 12 years plus. That the things you've known here, many people struggled 3 years earning salary and could not do it. You did it in 1 week, 2 week, 3 week. I say it with my full chest, and I sit on any platform to challenge that what you have learned here in the last 3 weeks, the tenacity you have shown, the kind of demos you've done, practice you have done. Many of you had partial issues and you had to start troubleshooting. You had to go to ChatGPT to help you. Many of you had to come up with your own custom dynamic script to put. Come on, guys. People sat in rows in their offices in salary and couldn't do this for years. I know people that did it. So you are already a professional. Well done and welcome to being a cyber. You are not a step closer. You are already Obiara. You're already. So that's good. All right. So a quick recap of our journey so far, right? We started with the foundations. We understood the different types of identity. We first of all even looked at what security is about, what identity security is about. Then we moved into human and non-human, right? And then we came and niched into Microsoft Entra Identity, which is what we're learning. And remember, I said that there are different types of identity providers, right? But our focus is on Microsoft Entra Identity. And we now came further to understand how users, groups in Microsoft Identity are dynamic grouping, security group, distribution group, what they all mean. And we took it further into privilege identity management and merged it with roles, right? So we now understood, or we now understand rather, what the different types of roles are. Remember, we talked about Azure roles, Entra roles, and why we didn't dwell more on Azure roles, reason being that we were not going to work with Azure workloads. So the guy who are learning the Microsoft cloud, right? The guys under Coach Titi's class, right? People will be learning how to set up virtual machines, learn how to set up virtual networks, right? In the real world, you as an identity person will also have to define, a privileged identity management model for them who can have contributor and owner. That's why I said that we just tried as much as possible to simplify this. So when you are scaling this up, you also understand how they work and how to create, identity. I'm happy to, on a continuous basis, come up with these use case assignments that we can be using for people to practice. Yesterday, I set up a GitHub repository and I want to be uploading it so that people can use it because, like I said, I'm hands-on, I'm working on clients' projects, I'm working as a consultant, and I see what these real life projects are. So I have an idea of what you should get as experience to make you stand out, from every other person who is also looking for that same job that you're looking at. And so our focus today would be on single sign on. Yes, single sign on. A quick recap, right? Okay, funny enough, I didn't edit the slides. I'll just keep it. But our key takeaway today will be that we'll look at single sign-on. We'll look at what single sign-on means to us, how Microsoft Entra handles single sign-on, and then we'll look at how to set up single sign-on in Microsoft Entra, what that means. We'll look at the different authentication protocols that single sign-on rides on, right? How to make your single sign-on decisions, right? And then how to set up a single sign-on application. I will do a live demo here of one of my applications that has the capability to do single sign-on, and I'm currently using my personal Gmail to log in, and we'll set up single sign-on for it, and you will see how I use a corporate email to log into it. All right. If you're also watching us on YouTube and joining us for the first time, also, just a quick recap. My name is Joy Emedom. I have over 12 years doing technology and security. My niche is identity, data, and AI. I have played around infrastructure, played around networking, but I fell in love with identity, data, and AI, and I've been doing this consistently in the last couple of years. I recently this year authored two types of books. One that's supposed to help people build a career in cybersecurity, and it's free. You can download it from my profile on LinkedIn. And the other is a paid book, but it's a material to help parents have healthy conversations around cyber safety terms with their children in the world of today. It will interest you to know that many parents still don't know how to have these kind of conversations with their children. Let me just even throw something there to laugh. I was going through WhatsApp status and I saw somebody's status, their children were doing, career day. And I was shocked to see that it was still the same type of careers that were talked about in our time and our parents' time. I didn't see anybody say, I want to be a data analyst. I didn't see anybody say, I want to be a prompt engineer. And I'm going to be doing a post later in the week. It got me interested to say, it means that lots of, in quotes, work parents still don't even know that jobs have changed, job nomenclatures have changed. While yes, doctor, lawyer are still relevant and they still exist, the jobs today that are giving the big bucks, the jobs that are going to change the narrative in the recent times, are not these jobs that their children, are portraying. And so it gave me concern. I'm like, is it that the schools are not aware, or is it that the parents are not aware, or that they're not creating this awareness amongst their children? You'll be amazed that your kids don't want to be doctors or lawyers. So why portray doctors or lawyers if that's, if you get what I'm saying? So that book, Cyber Terms, gave parents some insights into the kind of terminologies that they can begin to use to have conversation around how their children spend time on the internet and how to stay safe. I love to talk and speak, so I speak at several events. And I mentor across different community groups over the years. Cyber Safe Foundations, She Secures, Textilers, which we're getting from here. And I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. So beyond just volunteering Textilers, Microsoft has certified me to do this kind of trainings. And I'm happy to do them. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I love to build community. So I co-founded a community called Mama Cyber Shield, focused on stay-at-home mom. Again, being a wife and mother and building a career, I know how challenging it is. And I know that there are many women like me who want to do this, but maybe think it's not possible. So we set up this foundation community to help mothers know that they can still build a cybersecurity career while still doing, staying at home and preparing themselves for when they want to come back to work. I have one motto that I always say: the only thing stopping you is you. As long as you refuse to believe that you cannot do it, then you can do it. So welcome to the fourth week and the last week of our identity program. I realized that I can't remember because I didn't check, but somewhere in my mind, I feel like I didn't talk about custom Entra role last week. So I'll quickly do this and then we move into single sign-on. So remember when we talked about Entra roles, right? And we said that when you're on Entra, you will see roles, and the roles would have labels. So you have the label of that is called privileged, right? And then you have the ones that is not called privileged. Now, these labels that are called privileged, right? If you go to the role itself, you will see the actual function that has made that role become privilege. Meaning that if somebody in a team is supposed to do something else, right, that doesn't require that privilege function, you can actually take it out. Or if somebody in a department has a need to, or a group of people in a department have a need to do a particular function, but another privilege function is bundled within that role, you can customize it, remove that one, and then focus on giving them the roles that they need. So I'll be quickly doing a hands-on on how to do that. So just bear with me. I'm going to share my screen again. I know many of you are happy that I just said what I said now, because I know it was in your assignment last week. So I have a feeling lots of people are saying, oh, Father Lord, thank you for answering my prayer. That this woman just somehow, I have a feeling. All right. Okay, please let me know when you can see my Entra screen. Uh, Sorry, I have to stop sharing. I want to reshare it using window. All right, let me know when you can see my Entra screen. All right, let me know. Can you see my Entra screen? I'm sharing the Microsoft Entra. Thank you, Nike. All right. So let's go. Only saw Nike's hand. All right. Are we confirming we can see? Okay, yes. Okay, so I'm going to go back to it. I just wanted to be sure. All right. So remember we talked about Entra roles, right? So these are the, if you come here to roles and administration. So remember from here you search, you go to Microsoft Entra, and then you land here, and then by the left on Microsoft Entra, sorry, you will see roles and administrators. You click on it and you will see the different roles, right? Now, I'll just take one. Now, let's assume you've been introduced to a department, and in that department, they have maybe 5 members. 3 of them need to do something similar, and 2 need to do something different. The 3 who need to do something similar require the privilege function, but the 2 don't require it. But the 5 of them need to be in that department to use that same role. So let's take, for example, the application administrator role. So let's click on it so that you can actually see what this role is. So you go to description and it tells you what the role is. So let's assume a team comes and says, and when as the IAM analyst, they say, we need the application administrator role. The ideal thing you're supposed to do as the analyst is, what do you guys do? What exactly do you need this role for? And as they explain what they do and need, if you come here, you see Microsoft will break down the different permissions this role gives. So you can see that, okay, if somebody is saying they want the application administrator role, they can create application policies, okay? They can delete policies. So in that department, their function is that as an application support team, they want to be able to create policies, they want to be able to update policies, right? And then somehow here, they want to update application credentials. Now, Microsoft has classified that this particular function is a privilege function, right? And then it has come down here again to say that this particular function is a privileged function. So in that department of 5 people, if 3 people there are the only ones, maybe the team lead and maybe the senior engineer are the only ones that are allowed to create and delete OAuth permissions. But then you have 2 graduate trainees that just joined the department that want to be able to answer service desk tickets that come to that department to do other things, but not necessarily do these high privilege roles or even any other role that you see here. What you would typically need to do at that point is to come and customize this application administrator role, right? So you will come and say new custom role. Let's call it again. Naming conventions should be based off naming conventions and style. Now remember when I told you that you cannot create custom role from a Microsoft role. You have to customize a role. Then from it, you can custom. So because of that, I'm going to go back a bit because I don't have, I just want to take a screenshot. I don't know all these settings for this one of heart. We don't cram these things, right? Because there are documents that Microsoft changes all the time. So you don't necessarily need to cram it. You just have two tabs. So I just take a snippet of this so I can just copy what I want. Sorry, I just want to. So we go back one step. I say new custom role. Um, test application administrator. Okay, and then start from scratch. Because see, if I say clone, I don't have, you can see there's nothing to clone because I don't have any role that I've custom. So I'll start from scratch and test application administrator. And then I say next. And then you can see different roles that I want. So if I go back to my screenshot, I can see I'm looking for Microsoft directory application policy delete. So let's come here. Yeah, so I want this role. I want, sorry, I don't want the intent to delete. I want them, they can create, they can read, they can update, but I don't want them to do anything, delete. I'll just pick small. We won't spend time here. They can read. So let's assume this is the only role I want for application administrator for those interns that joined, right? I have clicked on it and I'll say next, right? And I will say create. So you can see the role here. So what would that mean? It means that if I assign application administrator to the three senior people in the department, right, I will come and assign test application administrator to the interns. So it means that for that kind of department, right, I would have a group for these people that are for different roles and this group that are for different roles. There are many times that you would sit in a organization and they will say, all of us are in application team. You tell them, I hear you, but do all of you do the same thing? Because Microsoft says zero trust. We give least privilege at all time. The concept of zero trust, which is what Microsoft preaches as best practice, is give least privilege, meaning that I only give you what you need. So if a team is saying we're five and we're application support team, yes, but the five of you do the same thing. The answer most times is no. You probably will have graduate trainees who just joined, who you will never want to be able to delete things, right? Maybe they can create, they can add, but they shouldn't have the power to delete. At that point, you want to customize this role and assign this to only them, and then assign the main role that has it. You can even want to customize and still put some things for the main people and the other people have it separate, right? Never customize, and I think that's why Microsoft doesn't allow you customize your routes, just so that people don't make it messy. So they always make sure that you can create this role exactly the way Microsoft has it, but you can't customize their own, just so that people don't um mess it up. But that's it. So once you've done this, depending on if you are doing a direct assignment, then you come directly here and add. If you're adding via role, you go to the if you're adding via group, sorry, you go to the group and add. Another thing you want to do is when you've created the custom role, you also want to see the settings, the role settings that are on it, just to again be sure that it aligns with what you have defined. So two things you ask: what do you do? What's your job description? What are the tasks you need to do? That enables you to customize, but then you also want to understand the activation and assignment settings. So do you want to do eligible permanent, or do you want to do eligible time duration, or do you want to do active? This is where you come. So you edit here and you go through. So in this instance, it's saying that the access will be activated for 8 hours. It's not saying, it's not requiring MFA, but it's requiring justification. It's not requiring approval. So in this instance, for example, if I'm giving it to an intern, I can say, oh, even though I want to give them this role, I want to still approve these intents before they activate, right? So I will come here and I will check the box, require approval to activate. So what this, and then it's going to ask you who are your approvers. So you want to look for who is the boss or guy of that department. I'm just going to put anybody's name here, right? Because it's a demo tenant, and that's it. So this boss will receive, anytime the people activate, it will come to this person, and the person will have to approve for them to use it. So I can say allow permanent eligible or allow permanent active. I can say require MFA, require justification, depending on whatever, and that's it. Um, sorry. So that's how you customize a role and customize the settings. And then, like I said, if you want to be, if you want it to be a direct user assignment, you just come here and add the user that you want to give it to directly. And if it's going to be a group assignment, then remember, you go to the groups and then you will see roles, and then you add this role to that group, and that's it. Any question? So I feel like I just gave expo to the, but it's not exposure. I know that I didn't dwell on this in the last class, but it was in the assignment. So that way, some of you can breathe now. Breathe. You now know how to do that section in your assignment. So we're going back to what we have for today. Please again, let me know that you can see my screen and you can see the slide. Thank you. Thank you, Adenike. I appreciate the constant support. I'm going to come off camera a bit. All right, so we've looked at custom roles, and now we're going to meet into single sign-on. Yep, this screen is a normal day for most users. For me, I work with, on an average, 8, 9, 10 applications every day. See that I'm logging into Entra, logging into admin, logging into Canvas, logging into ChatGPT, logging into Copilot, logging into AWS. How many is that already? Logging into my internal knowledge base app, logging into my Gmail, right? Logging into LinkedIn. That's it. Like, we have so many applications that we're engaging, and that's how it is for corporate personal users and corporate users. You would have so many apps that you need to deal with. And when you have so many apps that you need to do it, with what we've learned so far, it means that all these apps have an identity. You have an identity for all of them, right? And if you have an identity for all of them, it means that you have passwords. Statistics says that 168 passwords for personal use. The average user, you might not be in that average user, but the average user in the world today uses 168 password. I wanted to disagree, but then I went to my Google password manager and I saw 200 and something saved passwords. And while I know that some of those platforms are from old things I've used, old platforms, but the point is they are there saved in my Google password manager. And this statistics was as at 2024 by, I think they're called Nordic or so. And it says that for business users, so if you're in the corporate environment, for your corporate apps, the average person uses 87 passwords. No wonder we have 81% of data breaches due to weak or reused passwords, because the average person will just find themselves reusing passwords. So let's get honest. How many apps do you use regularly at work or your personal life? Quick 1 minute check and drop it in the chat. How many apps do you use regularly at work in your personal life? And how many passwords do you think that you have? How many passwords? So let's go with the first one, and then I'll say question one, or you do one, then you put your answer, two, you put your answer, three, put your answer. So one is how many apps do you use regularly at work? Or if you're not working in your personal life, how many apps, right? How many passwords do you think you have? The person that says four, you know why I want to disagree with you? I bet you have, unless you are saying work, even at work, I'll challenge it. You have Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. That's already three. And your Gmail, that's already four. So when you tell me you're doing four, I'm not going to agree with you because you have your mobile banking apps, you have your, like, anything four, five, I'm disagreeing. Like four, five apps, no, no. How many passwords do you think you have? The person said, I don't have Instagram and Twitter. Oh, that's good. Good to know. But you have TikTok, right? You have Snapchat or anything social media you're off it, or you have Facebook. I agree with you, Mofeba. I believe over 250. I'm telling you, because at this point, right, all we know is everything you want to log into is an app. Have you recently been seeing all the AI platforms? Everything, you create an account. It's just that we use our Google, right, to do single sign-on, which is what we're learning today. But if you check it, that's why the single sign-on, we're going to understand and why it's a good approach in the corporate environment, because many of us use lots of apps, but luckily, because those apps have extended federation, external identity, we find ourselves using our Gmail, and so we don't necessarily need to remember a password. And that's what we're going to be learning today, how to do that in the corporate environment. Kayange, I would love to engage you to understand, how you do not use more than four apps in your personal life. Okay, what about your work life? I also would want to challenge that in your work life, because your work environment will have their service ticket platforms where you log service decks. They would have your timesheet platform. You would have maybe minimum two applications you work with to do your teamwork. So that's already four. We're going. You have your email, you have, your Teams. Now, the reason why your email, your Teams, your SharePoint are not asking you for password again is because of what we're learning today, single sign-on. So the ability to seamlessly connect different applications into one identity, right? Yeah. So but is this getting you, excited to know that that's actually how much password, and that's why that number 81 is still high on the number of bridges that we have. So another question is, how would you feel if you could log in once with one secure password and then you get access to everything you need securely? You don't have to memorize multiple credentials or reusing passwords, and you just have the ability of one set of credentials that makes life easy. So I'm sure many of you have seen places where you have to sync your Gmail, right, or your other type of email, Microsoft email, into a platform, and how it saves you the headache of worrying about what that password is. I, for one, once an environment gives me the opportunity to use my Gmail, I am one of the most happiest person, because that's one password less to remember, right? And most times when you want to set passwords, you know what happens? What comes to your head is the last password you used. You are tempted to want to use that. So that's why we say that there are lots of reuse of password. I like Kayanga. So even why I don't know if you're male or female, says that she has only maybe four apps. What she says is that it's like she uses the same password across until she started understanding that cybersecurity, that's a whole blunder. Exactly. Many people too have been were doing that before, cybersecurity awareness, where they feel like, is it not my password, right? So they use one password for different platforms. Now, somebody will say, but is that not what single sign-on is doing? Yes, but in a more secure way, right? All right, thank you. Good to know. I didn't want to reference you with the wrong pronoun, so thank you for that. Yeah, right. But I like the fact that you owned up that once upon a time you use one password for everything, because in your head, and that's what single sign-on is going to do for you. Single sign-on will allow you now use one password, but the good thing is it's going to be tied to an identity. Whereas without single sign-on, what you were doing was that each of those platforms, in isolation to themselves, you were using the same passwords. So are you seeing the difference? With single sign-on, we would have one identity, and that identity, managed by our identity provider, would be responsible for signing us, so that security is on that identity. Versus when we had so many applications, we had different identities but with the same password. We were reusing our passwords, and it was causing us an opportunity to, be open to a cyber breach. With what I've said so far, what are you thinking? Is it possible? How is it possible? Is it even secure? Are you sure it's secure to use one password, one platform? Whatever your thoughts are, we would be going into it. Now, remember, what we are learning is Microsoft Entra. So when we give you the foundation, we will come and say, this is how Microsoft handles it. There are different providers who are responsible for handling single sign-on, different authentication providers. So if you remember in class 1, where there was a slide, we showed you different types of identity providers. Good. Those identity providers can also do the single sign-on capability, because like we said, the whole idea is your identity provider is now responsible for securing and managing your access to these multiple applications. So what you'll be learning today is how Microsoft will secure, right, identities using single sign-on. Okay. 4 key things that single sign-on does for us when we integrate it with Microsoft Entra. One, it will streamline signing experience. Like I said, today, many of you will log in your office, you log into your email, you come in the morning, you power on your laptop, you sign into your laptop, and that's all. You find out that you either don't have to sign into your email, or you don't have to sign into your Teams, or you don't have to sign into your SharePoint, right? And even if you did, or it prompted you, it was the same Windows password it will ask you for. So it gave us that streamlined signing experience once we integrate, our identity that is hosted on Entra into our application. And guess what? What does that mean? Productivity. So the time it will take me to remember my password, try 2 or 3 times, it will fail. I would reduce that time, and I'll be able to do other things. So you find out that productivity increase. People don't have to worry about passwords. People don't have to worry about failed login attempts, calling service desks. I forgot my password. Can you help me reset? And all of those things. And then it will increase IT's efficiency. So calls on password issues, locked out accounts, all of those things will drop, and IT will be more efficient in focusing time and energy on how to pay attention to the sign-in signals that we get when you try to log in, and how to secure it more than spend time worrying about whether you could remember your password or whether you set your password correctly. And so that helps us now provide this enhanced security we're talking about, where we infuse things like MFA, conditional access policy, IP-based policy, location-based policy, and all of that. Now, we cannot talk of single sign-on without going back to the first class, where we highlighted a bit of, remember, the 4 arms of, identity and access management. We talked about authentication, authorization, administration, and auditing, right? But today, we have to take 2 out of those 4 arms to help us in order to be able to do single sign-on. The first thing is authentication. So when you put your username and password, what happens? The system is saying, are you the real person? Are you who you are? So the system is trying to validate that your identity, right? The system wants to be sure that you are who you claim you are, right? So in the concept of single sign-on, it means that once we do the integration, the single sign-on capability on Entra, when talking to your application, needs to be able to tell your application that, yes, this is the user that you want to access you. So before single sign-on, your application was the one responsible for saying whether your username was right or wrong. And so if you put a right username and password, the application will open up. But once you integrate single sign-on, what's happening? You're saying, the application is saying to Entra, I want you, since you are the owner of this person's identity, to confirm to me that this person is who they say they are, right? And that this person has met all the checks for me to now authorize them. For you to now authorize them to come into me. Now, When Entra is trying to authenticate you, Entra needs to say, what is the thing that the application wants to see that will make them say, yes, this is Joy. So you know how you apply for visa application and you will say, oh, your family member who is in abroad will invite you, right? And when they're writing an email, or writing the letter to invite you, they need to put supporting evidence to prove that they're who they are. Just saying that you are their sibling will not. I'll give you an instance. My adopted daughter was coming down. We needed her to come down here because she was already above 18, so they didn't accept her as a dependent. And so when we applied for our visa the first time, right, just by writing, oh, she's our daughter, blah, 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 she didn't get it, right? So when we had to do it, we had to prove to show that, yes, she doesn't bear our surname because we didn't want to change our surname. We wanted her to have the freedom of knowing that we were not taking away her previous identity, right? So, but she belongs to us. These are evidences. We had to look for pictures we had taken. We had to look for pictures of her mom. We had to look for other things to say that this person is who they are to us. And so in authentication, those are the things that we call claims and tokens. So the application is going to say, I need you, when you approve this person's username and password, to also approve it by giving me XYZ. You could say, give me their name, give me their first name and their last name, give me their employee ID, whatever. So a claim is just a simple piece of information that you are going to open up, and merge as a response pair back to the application. Because again, don't forget, when you did not have single sign-on, the application on its own, right, had its own database. And so when you created, I want to have an account on this application, you filled whatever details it was there. And so the application was the one who would go to its database and confirm and say yes. But now the application is saying, I want your identity provider, which manages your identity, has all this information about you, to come back to me to say, you are who you say you are. But I need them to also, in that process, do this check for me and give me these claims so that I can authorize you into what you need to do. I'm trying my best to make it as simple as possible because I know it can be a bit complex. And so there are different types of claims that you will have to use during an SSO. You have the accession, you have attributes, you have a token where you have to, we call it JSON web token, where you put lots of customization. For those who don't like scripting, again, that's where it is. But trust me, there's no scripting in your project. But all of those things. But the point is, get familiar with this, type of claims, right? You would have some applications say, this is the kind of claim or the kind of way I want you to return the claim to me. The default and most simplest one is always accession and attribute. So again, like I said, first name, last name, employee ID, things like that. They're always very easy. You'll find most applications say, give me that in the response, in the token response, so that I can confirm that this user is who they are, right? Now, remember, we have authenticated, but we need to authorize. What's authorization? Authorization is we saying that, yes, this person is who they are, and this is what they're supposed to have access to, right? I made a fast switch because I realized that I mixed my slides. So this should come before that one. So I'll go back again. So authorization is what will say that this user, yes, I have authenticated the username, the password, correct, whatever. I've gotten the claims, but this is the claims you need, and then this is what they need to have. So remember the whole roles and all of that. Roles fall under authorization. So they are the things that you say, oh, based on this person's ID, right? This is the token response and the claims that they need to take back to the application so that the application can open up for them. Have you seen where, for those of you in organizations, you have access to something and your colleague doesn't have access to it? Why? That's by virtue of the job that you do or by virtue of the responsibility and rules that you occupy. So it's the same thing. So you can be two people on the same platform, but with different view into what you see, right? And so that's where you have entitlement type, access policy. And so that claims is handled by Again, Entra will authenticate the person. Entra will say, okay, if it is access token that the application wants, it will get the information, it will get the resources, and it will push it there. If it is identity token, it will authenticate the user and then use whatever type of authentication protocol and connect, right? And based on how frequent the application wants it to refresh that token. So what's a token? Token is, I have authenticated this person. Take this as the confirmation, right? That I am saying this user is who they are. Now, what is the refresh time? I can say, but after 1 hour, come back to me for me to confirm to you that this person is still who they are. I know it can be so annoying, yes, but you know how hackers can intercept your connections, right? And so you want to use token refresh to actually keep that session, legitimate. So again, we can have refresh tokens. So you have authenticated, you have authorized, but you have told the application, I've given you a green light, but you know what? Every 2 hours or every 3 hours, why do you think that sometimes you're logged into an application and then it times out, right? Is it not annoying sometimes, right? That's why. Because the more technology advances and the more hackers have a way of, intercepting our connections, the same way security has to improve. So there are things called session tokens that where hackers can intercept your sessions and take over your session. And so you want to have refresh time where that thing times out and that token becomes expired. And so you have to go back, and re-authenticate, and then another new token will be exchanged, right? Why do you think one of the reasons why it's not recommended to use non secured Wi-Fi, right, for connections? Because once you have non-secure Wi-Fi's, right, and you're exchanging tokens in clear text that is not secured, it can be intercepted and used, to connect to you. Because if I have your token, I can go to another system without knowing your username and password. Trust me, that's for advanced class. I know it would have been good to show you how to do that, but I just told myself, hope I won't be causing more confusion in your head. But there's a way to intercept your traffic, get your token, and then I go to a new system. I don't need to know your password. I don't need to know your username. And because that token session is still alive, I can connect back to that server and do what I need to do. And evidences will show that it's you. The only difference will be that the location will now be different. But if location was not part of what was requested as part of the authorization claims, right, then it will fly. I'll be able to connect to your server and do what I need to do. Um, Again, what are the common type of authorization? Like I said, role-based access control. Access control is which you see most times in network environment. So you come into an environment, you have Wi-Fi, you have LAN. Again, I don't know, many of you have seen these scenarios. You have vendors come to your office, even though your Wi-Fi is broadcasted, if they connect to you, they can't connect unless they've been, permitted. So those are what we call access control. Is role-based access control is what you're experiencing now with the Microsoft Entra role, where if you don't have this role, you can't do. So how many of you remember when you would say, Joe, I could not add role, Joe, I could not add user, Joe, I could not do this, right? And I'll say, hold on. And then I'll come back and I'll say, try again. Why? Because when your profile was created, the right roles were not given to you. So while you could log in into Entra, you did not have the right role to do what you wanted to do. Are you seeing it now? That's what authorization does. So it means that you're not authorized to make that change, that even though you were given an assignment that meant that you could do it, the system itself did not see that you were given that authorization to do it. Yeah, that's a good example. Now, so let's moving forward. Let's look at the different single sign-on methods. We have 6 here, but in recent times, we see more around the first three. The last three are becoming very obsolete, so we're not going to dwell them. But you're going to be seeing lots of modern authentications dwell around the first three, right? So we have single sign, the SAML 2.0. This is a common authentication method that you will see used mainly for browser-based applications. So lots of web applications, right? So you have your Miro application, you have your Salesforce, you have your ServiceNow, you have your Workforce, different SaaS applications, right, would typically use the SAML 2.0 type of SSO method. So in a nutshell, what would this require, right? It's more around exchanging metadata. So the application itself would exchange configuration files with Entra, right, so that Entra can now be the one to authenticate and authorize you, and then the application will now provide that service when they get the token response. Another type of SSO method you will see is what we call the OpenID Connect. The OpenID Connect uses the OAuth 2.0 also to be able to do what it needs to do. Mainly used for mobile apps, web apps also, but custom web apps. So when you have your organization trying to create their own applications that are web applications and mobile applications, the type of SSO authentication protocol that they would use when they want to integrate with Entra would be the OpenIDC Connect, right? So you will see that again around things like Zoom Workspace, Office 365, right? These are mobile and web-based applications that are custom but mobile applications. Then we will see the OAuth 2. So OAuth 2 is a modern authentication method now. It's gradually phasing the LDAP and the LDAPs and the Kerberos and the NTLM. These are old authentication methods. Many of you young people just joining tech in this recent time might never get familiar. If you don't work with an organization that has an old infrastructure, you might never get to experience those old. But OAuth 2 is the modern day authentication protocol, right? Again, most times you would see it used around application to application connection, right? So you have an API that needs to talk to a system, and then that authentication that needs to happen would be sitting on OAuth authentication, right? So company A has an application sitting on server A, and that application itself needs to go to the Entra ID to authenticate and get a token so that the server B can validate that that application is legit. You'll be using what we call the OAuth authentication. And like I said, we have the WS Federation, we have the header base, we have the password base. All of these are not in use as much as the first three, and so I'm not going to dwell on them. They are good to read and know, but you might find out that I haven't deployed anything around those three in the last 2 years of my life, right? So you might find yourself not having clients who use those scenarios, right? And that's it. But you might find yourself that that's your first project. Hey, happy to help you here to see how to flesh it. But considering how constrained we are with time, we will just focus on the three. So this is a simple Microsoft workflow that talks about what you should do once you have an SSO integration, right? You want to be able to know what decision to take. So it would say that you start by saying, is this a new application development or not, right? And so if it is a new application development, right, an application that is being customized. So for example, Zoom is not a new application development. Zoom might be new in your organization, but you are not developing Zoom new, it exists, right? Canvas might be new, your application might just be onboarding Canvas, but Canvas is not, you're not developing it newly for your organization. So at that point, if it's a new application that probably the app developers are developing for the organization. So if you're in the banking system, maybe the application developers are developing a POS manager app. And instead of people to be profiled where you're having to remember username and password, right? You want to tell them that they need to do SSO integration. Back in the days with the old Active Directory, you would use what we call the LDAP, which is the LDAP kind of authentication. Like I said, authentication mechanisms are growing now, and to enhance security, right, we're using modern day authentication. So if it is a custom application, you will say yes, and then that means automatically that you are going to use what? An OpenIDC or an OAuth. At that point, what will differentiate it is if it is a app-to-app communication, then it will be an OAuth. But if it is a user that needs to authenticate, then you use the OpenIDC. So the workflow also goes down to say, are you ready to configure single sign-on for existing app? Yes. Then you now ask yourself again, is your app on the cloud or on-prem? So the workflow helps you know when to make that decision. Now, the first workflow was like, is it a custom app? The moment you say yes, it's a custom app, right? It already tells us that we're not using Samuel. We're using OpenIDC or OAuth. But the moment we say, no, we're not, it's not a custom app, it exists, then the next thing you ask is that, is it on the cloud or is it on-prem? Because if it is on-prem, it's a different ball together. But if it is on the cloud, then automatically that opens it up to being a Samuel authentication. So this workflow is going to be in one of the links I'll be dropping when I drop the documentation for this week. And you get to read and understand how to make that decision. So this is just showing us that Microsoft has a workflow that can help you. You don't have to cram everything in your head. This helps you prepare for conversations, right? A company says we want single sign-on. You're gisting with your cousin brother who has maybe three different, maybe a hotelier, a supermarket, blah blah blah, and you're trying to talk to him about centralizing identity, and he's listening to you and he's saying, oh yes, my staffs are always complaining that so many passwords, and you say yes. So that's part of the benefit of you getting onto Microsoft, because once we put you on Microsoft, we can actually integrate all these platforms your staff use into Microsoft Entra ID for one identity, right? And then when he says, oh good, come on board, I want to do this, by the time you're engaging the different application owners, this is the kind of questions you'll be asking. Is this a new application that you use, so that you can know what type of SSO method you are going to use to do the configuration? Any question? I just threw this here just to also explain how it will work for those who would, have to stumble on-prem, right? So you typically would have your Entra. Entra sits on the cloud. Again, Entra is not owned by any company. It's owned by Microsoft, sitting in Microsoft data center somewhere. And your users might be sitting across different organizations and different devices, right? So you can have single sign-on from them that will go to Entra and then go back to the online application. Sorry, go back to your on-prem application in your environment, or go to Entra and go straight to your cloud environment. So on-prem applications still can consume, modern day authentication using Entra. And the reason why is because, remember, we had again explained the first class that there's something called the Microsoft Entra that is always installed here. Installed in this side, that allows credentials, identities that are provisioned on-prem to sync their way all to the cloud, right? So we have those kind of scenarios. Now, things to know. Firstly, for you to be able to set up SSO, you will need a role called the Cloud App Administrator role, right? And then you will need, because that's a privilege account, you will need a privilege license, right? And you will need to configure it using these two important guys, the enterprise registration and the app registration. Very confusing, guys, and I will tell you why. Now, the enterprise application and app registration are two important features on Microsoft Entra that you use for configuring applications, whether SSO or no SSO on Microsoft, right? Now, when you use the enterprise application side, you see it in use cases around SaaS applications. How many of you know what the meaning of SaaS is? If you know what the meaning of SaaS is, without checking Google and checking ChatGPT, just drop it in the chat what the full meaning of a SaaS application is. Again, why am I saying it? I never want to assume that everybody understands. So SaaS means, drop it in the chat if you know, so that people can catch up. Thank you very much, guys. Yes. So the typical SaaS applications, and give me an example of a SaaS application. An example of a SaaS application would be your SalesPoint, your Salesforce. I'm trying not to call your Office 365. Thank you. Try not to call complex. Your Zoom application, right? Your Zoom application, exactly. Your Rebrandly that you use to customize, your URLs and make them short. How many of you have all these? If you're into content creation and you have your social media management applications, right? They are all software as a service. Yes, if you're using a cloud HR management system, yeah. So the person saying payment gateway will fall under app registration, and I'll tell you why. Slack here. So software as a service, those services that you consume and softwares that you consume to do, enterprise activities, right? Most times they are third party, right? Third party means that your organization does not own it. You're not the owner of Slack, but you guys bought their license and you're using it. You're not the owner of Bitly, but you bought their license and you're using it. Stuff like that, they fall under enterprise app. So when you want to set SSO up for them, you will go to the enterprise app side of Entra, right, to set them up here and do all other configurations. You will mainly see Samuel and OIDC protocols for those kind of application. Again, password based, but like I said, it's very rare. Um, Good. Booking.com, payroll. Awesome, Edward. Yes, you're right. Now, for app registration, right, it's more around customized apps that develop. So things like those payment gateway apps where, because why I put payment gateway apps here is that the payment gateway apps need to talk right to your bank, and then they need to talk to your bank through something else. Payment gateways don't just, users don't talk directly. That's why they are gateway. Payment gateways are in between the user and the server. Server could be the core banking server, server could be the bank's switch server, whatever. That's why they are called payment gateway, meaning that they're in the middle. So that payment gateway itself, when you want to integrate it, right, using modern day authentication, that payment gateway would be talking to an app that you register on Microsoft that will go on behalf of the payment gateway to whatever service it needs to consume their API, right? And so that would be using OIDC or OAuth, and that will follow that app registration. So depending on during your engineering and conversation with your clients or with your users or with your boss at office, based on the task he has given you, you would know where to fit in. And then that helps you know, okay, this is the type of authentication protocol I'm going to use to set this up. Any question? All right. So again, just a summary. Key features of enterprise app is that enterprise application is that it will connect to existing app. Most times the app exists. However, your organization can choose to want to create or develop an app that is going to be used by everybody. I give an example, like maybe your POS manager app or stuff like that. They can also be set up, not the app itself that I'm referring to, but when they want to connect to Microsoft single sign-on, they will be customized on the Entra, and you will see it to be able to communicate from the app to Microsoft Entra. So what are we saying? Your software as a service, look at it as Joy. Your Joy is your software as a service. Edward is permit me Edward to use you as an example. Edward is Microsoft Entra, right? Joy needs to validate that everybody coming to her, right, doing this course is the right. So who do we bring? I bring Anu, and I say, Anu wants to access Joy, but Anu needs to authenticate through Edward as Entra. So I am not going to listen to anybody. I'm not going to listen to Anu except Edward validates to me. So if I take it in real life, Anu is the person supporting me. So let me switch it. Anu is Entra. Edward is the user. So Edward says, Anu, I want to talk to Joy. I want to find out, something from Joy. Anu authenticates and say, oh yes, Edward is a member of Textilers. Edward is a member of the data security class. Yes, Joy, you can talk to her. That's actually how we plan to set up the training, but somehow you guys just circumvented me and started talking to me directly, right? But the point was, that's the essence of those support staffs that we had in the group, right? They become the connection between the mentors and you. They validate to we, the mentors, that you are a registered person. They validate to us that you're a member. They validate that you need this access, and then we grant you access. So that's the same thing with single sign-on. So your third-party app will be set up, right, on Entra, and that enterprise app that is set up on Entra will be the one now confirming back to your third-party app that you are a valid user and you have the right rules. The same thing with app registration. But again, are you saying the difference is the type of application that you want to set up? That determines when you run the configuration on enterprise app. May I tell you one thing that is now confusing? Why I say it's confusing? If you create an app in enterprise app based on why you need to create it, like after doing your findings, it will still create a copy in application registration. And if you create your app in application registration based on your use case, it will still create a copy in enterprise app. Why? I don't know, but that's how it happens. But the use cases are different, and I'll tell you why the use cases are different again when we go into the Entra, so that you see it's based on the kind of configuration you do. So, for example, if you set up an app registration, you cannot add users. You know that software as a service, users are the ones that are using it. So that again proves that you need to go to enterprise app. So even though it creates a copy in app registration, if you go to that copy, you cannot make any change to users. So it's just creating that copy from the concept of registering an application, but from the concept of integrating it, it will be done on Entra. When I go to the screen, you will see how it works. So this is typically how the dashboard of an enterprise application will look, and then this is how the dashboard of an app registration would look. Now we're going to go into a demo, a real life demo. Any questions? Any questions? I'll just create a mock app, then I will now do this full assignment, right? So I'm going to switch over to Microsoft Entra, take us through app registration and enterprise. Then we'll come back and look at the assignment, and I'm sorry, look at this live demo, and we'll do it together. Um, all right, please let me know by the show of hands or any reaction that you can see my Entra screen. Um, so when you come to, can you. All right, thank you. So when you come to Entra, if you come again to the search and do enterprise, you will see enterprise. That's it there, enterprise applications. And once you click on it, you will see different types of application depending on the applications that your organization is using. Right now, we're going to go through each of these tab, what they mean. If I wanted to create a new application, right, this is where I'll create it. I'll come to new, right? And there are two types of ways. Microsoft already has preloaded applications into it, right? So you can see AWS is already preloaded, Google Cloud Platform is already preloaded, Oracle is already preloaded, and there's a whole lot. You might not, instead of scrolling down, you can search. So a whole lot that Microsoft already has preloaded. You can search just any application. This is another application that is preloaded, Workday, an application, different types of. So Microsoft has, I don't know how many, I can't remember. They have the documentation, lots of applications preloaded. If an application is already preloaded from Microsoft, makes your life easy. If you click on it, the only thing you need to do is edit. So let's take, for instance, I wanted to do single sign-on for Zoom, right? You can see that it's already preloaded. So if I click on Zoom, it will pop up and ask me a name. Please, when you're doing single sign-on for your organization, remember what I taught us during privilege identity naming conventions. You should have a naming convention. You don't want to use Zoom because on your enterprise app, it's not Zoom. Zoom is where it is. The client will see Zoom, but you want to be able to identify that this is a custom configuration. So I would just say training demo Zoom, right? And I will say create. Guys, that's all. Now, because this is a preloaded application by Microsoft, I don't need to do any other thing and apart from the name until it opens up, then I now customize, and that's it. Microsoft has created that application called Zoom for us. Now we want to integrate Zoom, right? Want to integrate Zoom to the real Zoom. So your users have Zoom, they were putting in their username and password, maybe they were using their Gmail, but then because it's an enterprise application, you want to enhance security on it. Your team, the risk team says add it to single sign-on. So what did you do? You went to enterprise application, you searched and you saw that Zoom exists by Microsoft. You clicked on it and it created it. So the next thing is to now configure it. Now, when you come to the overview page, this is what you will see in the overview page. You will see these 5 tabs that will guide you through your navigation. You can also come here by the left and click manage, and you will still see them. You still see users, you still see single sign-on, you still see provisioning, you still see self-service, and you still see security down here. Right. Now, if you come to properties, this is where you can edit the name. So if you say, oh, the name I gave it, training demo Zoom, I made a mistake. That's not how our boss or our naming convention said. He said we should just do demo Zoom, not training. Then you can edit it and come here and save, and you can fix that, right? You can also come here and make any change. So, for example, if you do not want users to be explicitly added, maybe you want to say anybody in the organization can use it, then you can come here and switch this to no again, and you save. So you can do these changes here. If you have a privacy statement, obviously we would advise you to put your privacy statement in your tenant. You can see you can edit it here. But again, in this place, you can delete if you realize that, oh, we did set this, maybe through your organization process, they've decommissioned this application, maybe the organization is no more using it for the last 3 years. Auditor has come and say, why do you have this application in the last 3 years, nobody's using it? And you get approval to delete. It is under properties. You come and you click delete, and you'll be able to delete the app. Any questions? All right, so we move over to owners. By best practice, it is advisable to always give an application owner. Reason is that you want to know who owns this application. If, for example, there's an issue, there's a certificate that's expired that needs to be renewed, whatever needs to be done on this application after you have integrated it for SSO, you want to know who in the business owns this application. In the corporate world, everybody owns an application. You don't just like an application and just bring it into the organization, right? Somebody owns it, somebody took responsibility for it, went for approval, got the budget and all of that. So all you need to do is click add and add the owner of application. So I'll just pick any random person here, and that person's email will be populated here, right? And you can add more than one, and that person becomes the owner of the application. That's it. We will skip roles and administration because we're not going to be looking at how app talks to app. We'll come back there. We'll move straight to users. In this place, you're going to be assigning who needs to use this. Now, if this application was for, maybe Zoom is for everybody in the organization, right? Then probably you want to begin to look at, should we give access to people individually? Now, imagine an organization that has 10,000 people. You know that that's not realistic, right? However, you can add users directly, right? You can choose to add users directly, or you add users with a group. Now, depending on the number of users that should have access to the application, we always recommend group. The reason is that if I leave the organization, you want it to be a seamless process. My name will be taken out of a group, and so everywhere I have access, I'll lose. Versus if my name still remains here, it means that you will be seeing some expired, object ID that you need to clean up, and it can be messy. So best to use a group. Now, if you create a group for the users and you add them in Entra, then you can come here again and you can look for that group. Now, there's one thing. Sorry. Now, if you do what I just did now, mistakenly close and you need to go back, this is not where you go to. You just come back here to enterprise application, and you will see all the applications, and you can see the one that we just created, and you can continue from where you stopped, right? Now, for Zoom, when we set Zoom up, Zoom has what it calls roles, right? Now, some applications don't have it. Some application, everybody is a user on the application. When the user now logs in, the person who is the admin on the application can now give the person a role. But for some applications, it wants you from Entra to give a role. Now, remember when I talked about authorization? Because that application is saying, I want Entra to be the one to give me a token with these roles so that I can authorize this person. Sorry, so that I can give the person what they're entitled to. I want Enter to, authorize by giving me whatever they're entitled to. So if you come here back, you will see that when I added user, I needed to add role. So let's think I wanted to add this user column, and I select the user. It won't have saved because it's asking me for a role. So what do? for this kind of applications that are designed where the application wants Entra not only to grant the user authentication to also do authorization, you would have asked for what are the type of roles that your application requires. And I will show you where you can create the role if it doesn't exist. Now, remember, this application was on Microsoft's gallery, so we didn't have to do anything. Like I said, once the application is on gallery, it makes your life easier. Microsoft will pre-create so many things. So Microsoft has created this role. So let me say this user has a basic kind of role. So if you're conversant with Zoom as an admin, I'm sure you're conversant with these roles, and then I can assign it. I can come back and add the next user, another user, and maybe this user's role is admin or pro. So I think these roles are based of license, and then maybe I can add a group that has maybe all staff or something. So I'll come here to, you can see all users groups. I come to groups, I pick up one group, maybe all employee group right there. And then I can give again a license for all employee, and that's it. So this is how you create an enterprise application, and then you edit the properties to whatever you want to customize it to. You grant an owner, and then you add users or add groups based on whatever you need to add. Sorry, the all employee group didn't add, so I want to assume that that's a group that I cannot use for permissions. So let me look for another group, because it's a tenant. So let me take some of these practical groups. Let's use legal. Yeah, so that's it. And you can see the roles that have been assigned to this. Now, the next thing you want to do is, remember, we haven't still configured single sign-on. We just created the app on enterprise, customized it, added owner, added users. So now we come to single sign-on. It can happen in any sequence. You can choose to configure single sign-on first. Now you click on single sign-on and you come to Samuel. Remember when I said that for enterprise application, if you remember the slide where I put up enterprise application and I said use case Samuel, OIDC, or password based, right? But I said we will not focus on password because these ones are going out of extent. So we are doing a Samuel authentication. What it will ask us is, it will ask us for three things. This information now is what the application is supposed to now give you. Are you seeing it? The application is now supposed to give you these three things so that you can talk to them. So at that point, you click edit, and based off what the application gives you, you will provide these details here. And once you provide it here, that's it. You'll be able to connect from this application now to Zoom. So what does that mean? It means that when users log into Zoom, are you seeing it? Zoom will now say, oh, because this is your email, blah, 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 at this, go to Entra for your authentication. And then when they come to Entra, remember, this application is what has that configuration. Entra will now load them to this application, and based on the attributes and claim, grant them access. So the user would not have to worry about password. They'll use their same password. Now you can see the case of Zoom. Microsoft has created so many attributes and claim. It means that Zoom will require during the token exchange for all of this to be passed: giving name, first name, surname, mail, user principal name, telephone number, department, assigned roles, unique identifier, and groups, right? Doing the claims. Now, the reason why all of these were pre-populated is that Zoom existed. If it is your company's application team that develop an app, you'll be asking them for this, right? You'll be saying, which claims do you want to use so that I can use that claims and edit it? So you can now create the claims that they want, right? Now, the Samuel uses certificates to authenticate so that, for security, right? The certificate is authenticated, and inside this metadata URL is going to put the certificate and the key. So again, when you are done setting this up, you are going to copy this URL and give the application team so that they can add it on their end, because you want the application to be able to decrypt the token, right? I'm not going to go into cryptography and encryption here, but encryption just means that, in layman term, I write a message to you, not in plain language, but how are you going to understand what I've said? So it means that you have a code that tells you what I've said. So back in the days in secondary school, I'm not too young, but I'm not too old. I remember when I was in secondary school, then we used to write letters. The postman will come, I think, every week or every 2 weeks to pick our letters. And our friends in other FGC, I went to FGC, and we used to do this in FGC, we'll write letters to them. Then also these magazines that used to Hint magazine and the rest, where you do PayPal. Is it PayPal or PenPal? PayPal or PenPal, I can't remember the name. I don't know how many of you can remember that. You make friends through that. So all these social media things, it was PayPal and Pen. I think PenPal, is it PenPal or so? So when you buy Hint magazines, you see random people who put a bio about themselves, right? So we're in body house, so we would order those materials, and then you see somebody who say I'm this, and drop their postal address, and so you write the letter, and then you use things like doxology. I'm so excited to meet you. I read about you, blah blah blah, and you insert your pictures too, and then you send to them. And so when the postman brings, the letter, you're excited to go and pick. So some of us created encryption code languages that we used to use to write letters to our friends in other FGGCs. And I remember one of our code then was we changed the 5 letters of the vowel. So instead of A-E-I-O-U, anywhere we saw A-E-I-O-U, we will use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you read a letter from us, right, it will have sentences that had numbers. So unless you knew that was our decryption code, you will not be able to. I guess my interest for tech started way back. But that's the layman way to understand encryption, right? Is I want to write a message to you, but I don't want any other person that sees it for it to make sense. So I'm going to decode it, I'm going to encode it, and when it gets to you, I've already told you what to use to open it up, right? So inside this metadata URL is this certificate that we're using to sign the token, and the encryption key that we will share. Now, this certificate has a default duration of 3 years. As an organization, edit again, based on what your organization wants, you can extend this you can extend this to 3 years. You can extend it to whatever, depending on what your organization wants, right? And then you can put the email address of who should be notified when this certificate expires, right? So that it can be renewed, because when it expires, right, you need to renew a new one and exchange it again with the application team. We'll be seeing that. Again, you want to also tell the application that when users come to the application now, they put their email address. Entra should be the identifier. So you will share again these 3 details to the application people who will use it on their application end to configure for SSO. But on your end, the only thing you need is you need these 3 entries from the application people to give you, because once you put this here, you can talk to them, and you, on the other hand, will give them these 3 information and your metadata file that has your certificate, so that they can also configure on how to meet you. And boom, you have set up single sign-on. That easy. Big skill set in the market. Lots of organizations. If you think I am just wowing you, go to upwork.com right now and type Microsoft Entra SSO and tell me if you're not seeing people telling they will pay as much as $500, $300, $400, $1,000 for you to set up SSO. Not be cho. By the time you're done with your assignment and you create a portfolio of Upworks, you will sit in your room, comfortably do an SSO deployment. When you make that $500, just shall remember my 10% as your man of God tithe. Thank you very much. But just kidding. But my point is, imagine if every month you got an SSO job of $500 and you did it, right? Come on. From the luxury of your home, practicing what you learned by 8-week class in textiles. Is that not a win for you in 2025? Again, like I said, just so that you don't think I'm just whining you, go to upworks.com and say find job. You don't need to even have a profile. Don't create a profile. Click on find job and put Microsoft Entra SSO and tell me if you're not seeing jobs popping up on your. Some of them still call it Azure and Azure AD SSO, so you can try that. So moving forward, right now we have what we call provisioning. I'm not going to dwell more on this, even though I think a bit of it is provisioning is where you're saying that I want the moment somebody is added. Remember that group or that we added at when we went to user and group. The moment the person is there, the person should be automatically provisioned into Entra, right? So now this is not grayed out because we haven't. Sorry, I clicked too fast. Oh, I'm sure the person will give feedback that I'm too fast to say I sent it, Joy. So if you come here, because I don't have this setting, so I don't have a Zoom platform that we can use. But when I practice, when I do the live demo with the application I want to, you will see when I put all of these settings here, then the provisioning becomes, active. So it's grayed out now because, like I said, I don't have anything telling this application now to talk to another application. So you can see it keeps even going back. I've not configured. So as long as you haven't configured this, you can't do at anything. You can see even the attributes and claim is not allowing us edit it. It's telling you fill step 1. So this is a very important thing. So you must have these 3 information from the application people to be able to. So what does this 3 information mean in simple layman term? Identifier is saying that I want to be able to identify the application that I'm talking to. Remember, Zoom is in the market. Anybody has Zoom. How does Entra know that the Zoom you are talking of is the Zoom that is for your organization and not the Zoom for any other person? So there's a unique identifier that Zoom will give you when you buy their service, and everybody has a unique identifier. So when you go and say I want to configure SSO, it will give you a unique identifier, and that's what it is. What's reply URL? Reply URL is saying that when the users have put their email in Zoom and Zoom has sent them to me, and I confirm that yes, this user is legit by their authentication, and I carry all the claims and I put in the token, who do I send it to? Right? So that reply address, have you seen some posts that you do where you will need to put a reply address on the envelope, right? So that when that person reads it and the person is responding, it will go back to that address. So that's what a reply URL is. Entra is going to say, oh, okay, this is where you want me to return that token after I have confirmed that this user, and it will send it there. While the sign-on URL is optional, right? But Zoom wants their own mandatory. But you will see in some other applications, this optional will also show up in sign-up URL. Sign-up URL is just saying that what is that URL that they will put to log in, right? Before they land on me. Is it unique, right? Yeah, that's it. Now, once you have set up SSO, you come to conditional access policies. Again, this is where you create conditional access policies that will talk around things like you cannot access this if you're in Nigeria, or you cannot access it in Africa, or you cannot access it when you're outside this region. This is where we use to create those kind of conditional access policy. I'm looking at time, and I hope I can be able to touch conditional access policy. And then some custom applications, we want you to use a specific. So you know where I said that we are setting up SAML for SaaS applications. That's applications you don't own, but you can also set up for applications that your company developed. So I use the example of the POS Manager app, right? Now, the POS Manager guys can say that this is the certificate that I want you to use for the encryption. Are you getting it now? Don't use your Microsoft certificate. Use this our own certificate to encrypt. So at that point, they will give you the certificate that will also have the key, and then you come here, import the certificate, and then use it for encryption. Any questions so far? Again, when people start logging in, you can come here, use sign-in logs. You will see who logged in, what time they logged in, and then that's how you set up SSO using Enterprise app. Any questions? All right. Now let's go to app registration. If you come here, the same way you had Enterprise app, we go to app registration. Now, remember when I told you that if you create an application in Enterprise app, it will still create a copy for you. So let's just even validate that thing I said first before we set up a new application. So can you see demo Zoom here? But if you click on it, can you see that you can do other type of configurations, but not the type of changes that are there, right? So remember when I said that we had rules that Microsoft automatically created for us here. So if there are additional roles we want to create, this is where we will come. We'll create it on the app registration side, because on the enterprise side, we can't see any role. So I think it's the way Microsoft design is, right? So here is where you create an app role based on what the application people asked for. But in this instance, Microsoft created it for us because the application existed. Again, you can do certain kind of token configurations if they want additional kind of token claims and group claims. Again, on the app registration, you can see that the owner that you added there automatically came here and added itself. You can do certain kind of branding too here. So if you want a logo file, so in the app registration, it will not put logo the way it puts in enterprise. Anyway, for me, in order to have a good job, when I do my implementation, I used to come here and also put logo. I just like it to be neat when I'm doing my documentation. So I always come here and I will just save the logo of whatever app I'm using and I'll put the logo here. You can do that. For me, it just makes it neater. All right. That's it. So now let's look at, we want to create a app registration, right? Based on the design that was agreed. Um, Based on design that was agreed when we interacted with the application people. We have an application that needs to use OIDC or OAuth. Now, there are two types of, remember, there's OIDC that a user will connect. There's OIDC that is using OAuth, where it's app to app, right? What do you do first? You say new registration, and again, using your naming convention, right? Whatever it is. Now it's going to ask you who should access this app. Should it be people in your, so Contoso is the name of my company. That's this demo platform I'm using. It's using a company called Contoso, right? So it's going to ask you single tenant, meaning that only people in your tenant, people in multi-tenant, or people in your tenant and their personal account, right? Or people's personal account only, right? So in this instance, this application is supposed to be accessed by only people in our organization. After I have interacted with the application people, I found out that no, this application, they don't want it to be accessed by outside people. It's only people in our organization. So now, have you gone to some platforms and you will see sign in with SSO, and you will still see sign in with Microsoft, right? Those are places where that application was set up like this, and probably they selected the third one. That's how they want. So you can still use Microsoft and still use a personal Microsoft account. You get what I'm saying? All right. And then redirect URL. I've explained to you what redirect URL means. It is when Entra is done authenticating, when we Entra send the response to. So the application people should have given you a redirection. Now, remember we said that OIDC can work for web, it can work for single page application, it can work for mobile. So you also need to select this. So this is why I told people that beyond even configuring, as an IM person, one skill that you build is in design. And I'm sure for those of you who joined the morning class around communication, right, you will see why you cannot really hide away from communication. I'm a shy person. I don't like to talk. Yes, you don't want to talk in front of people, but you should be able to talk with a group of people so that you can understand the need and the requirements that can allow you go and configure this, requirement that they want. And if you are not going to be able to express yourself, speak with confidence, engage, understand how to do active listening, understand what communication is by asking questions and listening and responding back, you will struggle. So it's again very intentional that we brought all these soft skills, because we realized that for you to be a successful professional in this tech space, you cannot do without these skills, right? So all of these things that you provide there, they're not do. So I can give it to you for assignments. I can say, see your redirect URL. Your application is web. But in the real world, nobody's going to give it to you. You're going to interact with the application people to say, oh, you want to do single sign-on, that's good. Is your application a single page application? Is it a mobile or desktop application? Is it a web application? I think, can we have the redirect URL? Is this application going to be accessed for only those within our organization? Or are we going to have people outside our organization? And if people outside our organization, are we okay with having them use their personal accounts? Are you seeing it? You'll be asking all these questions, taking down your notes. Now, when you start as an IAM analyst, most times you won't be the one asking this thing. Your IAM engineer will do. But guess what? Because you now have this training, when they're asking these questions, you will feel like a champion because you'll be like, okay, this thing my guy is saying, I know it. Wow, makes sense, makes sense. And maybe if your guy even asks off point, you can later say, boss, I think we should have done this. And he'll be looking at you. How do you know that? You'll be like textiles. But the point is, these are where you put all the information. So I'm just going to put now, depending on which one you choose here, what happens next is different. So if you choose a web and I'm just putting anything, guys, because we're not going to really test it, right? And I say register. When I come to authentication, what I can configure here is different. So you can see it's here. It's not going to ask me what type of token do I want to use. Now, imagine that the people come back and say, oh, we're sorry. We told you it was web. It wasn't web. It's single page app. Don't vex for them. Okay? You have to come back here and select add platform, right? You click add platform. They said single page and put whatever URL. But guess what? If it's the same URL, it will not save because you've already used it before. You can see failed. So what you need to do, what you need to do is delete off this one. And don't worry, it's not going to delete all your configs. You just come back and then select the new one that they asked for. I see it, and then you configure it. What's happening? Oh, sorry. When I deleted, I didn't save. When I deleted it that time, I didn't save. Sorry. All right, then add. Good. Right. So you can see it, and I can delete this one. We're not using web. They came back and said they don't want web, so we deleted. That's it. And you can see the moment I selected single page, again, it will determine what I do here. So here is what type of token do you want? What kind of scenario of tokens you want? Whether it's access token, ID token, depending on the engagement you had with the application people, right? That will determine what you select here. And then you now move to certificates and secret keys. Again, remember, if it is API to API, you want to really secure it because, right, it's calling another service, and you want to make sure that, again, the token is secured. So you will generate either certificates or secret keys. So if you collect certificates, you can upload a certificate that they have provided for you, because remember, they are talking, you are going to be talking on their behalf, so they should give you a certificate. If it's secret key, you come and select new client secret key, call it maybe demo POS key. When is it expiring? You can select. It has up onto custom. It has up to 2 years. Whatever your organization agrees as the design decision, you select it. And one thing you must know about the secret key is that the moment you save it, you must copy out the secret value, because once you go away from here, you can never see it again. So this will bring you to where, as you advance, you learn things about Azure Secret Key Vault, right? There's a training on its own where you learn how to store your vaults and how to collect. Because if you take this, what this means is that if I intercept your traffic and I have this key, I can decrypt. So remember when I said that we use the AEIOU vowels when I was in secondary school? If you knew that, then you could decrypt our letter. If you didn't know that, you could not. So it's the same thing. If you have access to this value, you can decrypt. Now, as an engineer, you will have to copy it and use whatever method was agreed in your organization to store. Most people store it on Notepad. It's not acceptable. It's best to store it in a secret key vault, or you recommend to the organization to use the Azure Secret Key Vault to store these values. But for the sake of this class, this is what it is. So I'll just delete this off. We're not using it for anything, so delete it. Then the same thing, you come to token configuration, claims, API permissions, whatever API permission that you have agreed, you will come and create that API permission and grant the access of that API. If it is going to be able to read, write, whatever you've agreed, you will create that custom there. And that's it. You have your app registration. Now, if you go back to enterprise applications, you will see the demo POS there. Again, the reason why it is here is if you want to add any of these things, but you won't be able to set up single sign-on because it will know that is an OIDC. So you see, to tell you that this application uses OIDC and OAuth, because remember, you created it from the app registration, but you can still add claims and attributes. Any question? If not, we go into the real assignment demo where I would integrate an application for you. Somebody says, can you see what people are doing on their devices if you use SSO? No. But what you can do is, so there's something called the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. We're not really seeing what you are doing, but we can monitor applications that you use on your browser. So we can say, people are started using ChatGPT app, people are using Zoom app and all that, but the actual thing you are doing on the app, no. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, I remember pen pal. Yeah. Okay. So please don't drop off. I know that some of you just lock only 2 hours and you like to drop, but I'm going to extend this class to 10. I will make sure that after the demo, I show the assignment. So please listen to the project before you drop off. So now let's go back to read our practical. We're going to do a real life practical. So let me pull up the question so that we can see it. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Okay, so we're going to use this demo use case. It says a company called FJ Tech Hub is a consulting firm providing services across digital infrastructure, cloud platforms, and recently the Creative Media and Communications Department adopted Canvas as their primary tool for collaboration, visual, and brand design. The project objective: you want to integrate Canvas into Microsoft Entra ID using single sign-on. You want to enforce MFA and restrict access only from approved geographical locations, which is Africa, meaning that anything outside Africa they don't want. Ensuring that users log in securely using their corporate Microsoft accounts, right? So this is the task. You are the IAM engineer. You sat down in this call, right? You've been assigned to access and configure SSO, right? So I have like my cheat sheet here. What application am I doing? Canvas. What's the department? Creative Media and Comms. Users have been told 10 new team members, and the team lead will be the test user. What's the current login type? They're using Gmail, and we want to replace it with Entra. The location only accessible within Africa. Devices, users will not be assigned company managed devices, so it's not a big deal. The authentication policy, MFA is mandatory. and compliance reference. They want this in accordance with NIST and internal third-party risk policy. Yeah. Now, this is typically what you will get. What do you do from here? Um, Sorry, I'm trying to open my delivery workbook. Oh my God. Why? Okay. Let me know where you can see my delivery workbook. It's coming up. I'll just share my whole screen so I stop moving across. All right, can you see the Microsoft Word document called Delivery Workbook? Okay, I can't see hands, but I want to believe that you're saying yes. All right, so remember the assignments. Um, First question, what's the login mechanism that we want to use? They want us to use a user principal name or email or employee ID. So I want to use user principal name, which is also user principal name is what is their username, right? It could, which is their in instances is the email too. What is the domain of the company? And our users provision using the domain suffix. So the question here is on the Microsoft tenant, right? Is the domain existing that they want to use, and do users currently log in using that domain? So if we go to my tenant here, um, guys, do you want me to unmute you so that this can be interactive? What do you think? Um, I'm thinking same that I unmute um, with the understanding that we won't abuse it. But I want people to comfortably, raise their hands and contribute or ask questions. So I'm going to sorry, not present. Who can talk in church? Where's that setting? I want to unmute so that oh, that thing used to be somewhere here. No, then leave. Who can allow Mike? Sorry, I've seen it. Yep. All right. Okay, guys. So please feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand, and then I want it to be interactive because this is a typical scenario that you would see. So I'm going back. So we want to check. So I've said that we want to use user principal name. I want to check if the domain exists. Now, some of these things in real life domain will already exist. But remember, I'm trying to join everything we have learned from our first class, right, to our last class. That's why I did not put some things down. But in the real world, the domain will definitely be existing. Some users will already be existing in the platform because this is an application that they were using. So in the real world, some of these things not example, but because I want to start from beginning, I want to see if people remember some of the things we taught in the class. So for example, there's no domain here. What we have here is the suffix, right? So we need to add a domain. So I've engaged the team, and I found out that the domain is the hub.com.ng. That's the domain for the company, right? Now that means that we need to add the domain. So I'm going to I prefer to add the domain in my admin.microsoft.com. This is faster that way, and straightforward there. Can you see my good afternoon mode administration? All right, so we're going back to here. All right, so now we want to add a domain. Show all settings, domain, and I want to add the domain for this company called the hub. ng. Sorry, not .com.ng. Use this domain. And I'm saying I want to add a text record. So I'm going to do this and it will give me, yeah, so it's giving me point to address. So I'm going to say this, and then the value is ms 5656833.msv1 invalid. It's 56568833. Confirm this. All right. So I'm adding this to my DNS provider. Sorry, I have that on another laptop. And then I'll just verify the domain. Now, propagation will normally take a while, so it would take. It's already added to another Microsoft tenant. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. I've used that domain somewhere else. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I would switch to the tenant that has the hub, right? So that we can use that tenant. Just 1 minute. Let me log into that tenant. Let me log into that tenant. Sorry. So you see why I say we have plenty passwords. That's a live tenant though. Hey guys, you know what? That's a live tenant. So I would not use it. Let me use the one of the test people's environment that I added a domain I bought recently. So let me put that Azure.com. Use the you want to do live demo to always bring up surprise. ESP RGGRPA. Let me use these guys. I just want us to see how single sign-on setup works for 6. Okay. All right. So if we go to Entra ID, sorry, please, can you mute yourself, please? Custom domain. All right. I have a domain here. So I'm going to use this domain called fgs.store. Let me pull back my delivery workbook and change here to fgs.store. Okay. Not sure if I've set up email for it, but we'll deal with that later. All right, what's the domain of the company and our users provision? So we don't have any users. If we come back to this tenant, I'm gonna close all these guys. Disturb us. We don't have any users. So if I go here, do I have anybody that created so I can borrow their user? I don't have any users with just the stores. So domain, FG just stores, no user, no user. So I need to create user. So does the users exist on the identity system? No. If yes, request a list. So they don't exist. So we're just going to come up with a name. So Nana Coco will be the team lead. Lawrence Joko will be a team member, and that's fine. And again, I just want to be sure you guys remember all of this. I know you've done it before. By now, it should be easy for you. So just say Nana Joko. Joko. I'm using first name, last name, first letter. So I change here. I send it to the domain. Yep. I will create a password. I need them to change. Okay. You guys understand what I'm doing here? So I need to have a user to test what we're saying. So this is this user. So not now. Assign user product license. We don't have another license here. That will be a challenge. People have used up all the license. My students, I'm going to take license off one of you's demo account. Use up the license. Okay, sorry. Let me see if there's a license assigned to me. Able to sign in. Okay, that's fine. We can proceed with our license. All right, so we have Nana. Yeah, so we can see we have a user called Nana, right? Good. Forget about the other ones. We'll create it. Now, what is the naming convention to use for creating applications in Entra? So this company's name is called FJ, right? So I want to use a naming convention. Someone should give me, I want people to participate. Someone should give me a naming convention for the application that you are advising the company to use. I think that will still show what the application is for. So here we're going to call the application FJ Canvas app. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Okay. Um, Another thing, this is an example. So one of the ways I used to do is in real life, you're going to have some people have test environment, production environment. In this our demo, we don't have test, we just have one, right? So if you're in a real life scenario where they have a test environment and they say, come and do this in the test before you do it production, I would recommend that when you call that app thing, just put an appendix test. Are you getting it? And when you go to production and you do the same thing, you do prod. Does that make sense, guys? Does that make sense? It just helps you have a neat work. Yeah. So it's important that you are able to distinguish with test from tester because Entra, you can put a test and production on Entra. You can have multiple instances of an application because of the entity ID as long as it's different. So from the naming convention, you also want to tell anybody that comes even as an auditor, right, that this thing is test and this one is production. So, but in our instance, we're not going to use any of them, or we will use it, but we just know we have one. Now, what is the naming convention of the group to use? Remember, they said it's for the creative department. So we need to create a group. Do you agree that we need to create a group, or should we assign it to the users directly? Best practice, use a group, because with a group, You can remove people and they can add and leave the permissions, at the group level. So who wants to give me a group naming convention for this assignment? Yes, group naming convention. Sharp. I'm going to be rushing us now because I want to still talk on, even if it's for 30 minutes, MFA and the rest. Naming convention for the group for this company. I want to know that you practiced from, this is our last week. So all these things I'm asking were all the things you have spent 3 weeks doing. Naming convention for groups, please. Make sure that your group represents, so this group department test, it's a good naming convention, but as an architect, if I sit in a team and you recommend this for me, I will reject it. I won't approve it because it doesn't tell me who owns this. It doesn't tell me. So they've already told us that this is for, so it's not going to align with GRC. So when the guys for the governance, risk and compliance come, they will fault us because they're going to look at this group and say, this doesn't tell them who this is for, right? So the group department test is a good sequence, but just you'd have infused maybe comms. So instead of saying department, right, it could be group, comms media. I see. So we know that the department that owns it is comms media rather than department, because imagine IAM wants, their own, DevSecOps wants their own. Like, everybody is a department. So what differentiates us is the name of our department, right? So Omo good sequence, but I will replace department and maybe put comms dev. Victor, again, good, but like I said, that department there. So FJ dev department. I would infuse, instead of in your own style, instead of using DEPT, I will put Canva, since dev is the development team that you're referring here, but stick to the assignment, is comms team. I would say department should replace it with Canva. So where I'm going to is that governance, risk, and compliance should be adhered in anything we do. That your IAM and your designing and doing does not isolate you, because when the guys come for you, the auditors come for you, the compliance guys come for your organization, when they are doing their random check, they don't have time to see. They go in and they just pick, they just say, what is this for? What is this for? Right? Trust me, you have deployed this thing 6 months ago, 1 year ago, you won't remember. So the moment you start doing, I think, hold on, let me check, you've already failed compliance, because compliance is that you should be able to spot check what this is for, why it's for, right? This is why I'm infusing these things beyond what we are learning, because in the real world you need to. So if I had to borrow all of his own, I won't use FJ since we're already in the company. I would use group to show that this is a group. I would use the department name like you said, but I will use comms or media because that's the department rather than DEP. And then let me look at another suggestion you guys gave. Yeah, test environment, perfect. You can say this is a test environment group, or you can say this is a good, yeah, that's a good one. Or you can do the same thing like this, comms, media, and maybe SSO. I think, or you can do this way, SSO, comms, media, test. But the point is, people should be able to, from your group name, know what this is for, right? So we use any of these to create our group now. Again, I put here that you can also append role to your name because some applications would require you to have, meaning that the person who has admin role cannot have, or when you add that group, you need to bind a role to it. Are you getting it? So if you see in the type of, when we looked at Zoom, we had to put role this. So in that instance, let's assume I was creating a group for Zoom. It would be something like this group, maybe maybe I want to do this, and then I want to do admin. Was there admin there? There was pro and there was basic, or not going to be and group, Zoom, test, basic. And so for Zoom, it needs the users when you are assigning them to have a role. And since we want to use groups to assign, that groups must have a role so that we know that, okay, people who want pro access, this is their group. People who want basic access, this is their group. Am I communicating, guys? Exactly. Thank you. You should align with whatever scope. Perfect. That's a nice way to put it. So now we're making progress. Now application rules. In this Canva one we're doing is asking that, do we need roles? We don't know yet. How can we know? We're going to Canva and see if we need roles. We're going to go into Canva and see if we need roles. Now it's asking us to define the security groups required. We've defined, we just want one group. But if it has roles, then we're going to have this separate group, right? Type of SSO method. It's a SaaS application. So who wants to answer me? What type of SSO method are we using? It's a SaaS application. Let me tell you one cheat sheet that I do when I have SSO applications to integrate, as long as it's with Microsoft. The first thing I do, once I get a memo, I need to do SSO integration for this. I just go first of all to Google. Let me just show you. Cheat sheet. Let me show you. I go first of all to Google. I don't stress myself. Okay. And I say, for example, it's Canva, right? In this one, I say Canvas and Microsoft Entra SSO. Boom. And you see, documentation. I don't have to worry my head. I think because there are some applications that, like we said, Microsoft already has integration with them, so it would save you many of the stress. So when you get your email telling you need to do this, just Google. If you see it, it tells me, first of all, I have an idea. Even without seeing Canva, I have an idea. Okay, now it's telling me where on Canvas I even need to go and do my integration. I'm like, okay, you can see it's even telling me it's a Samuel. I seen some answers that I need. It has told me, boom. I just reading this, I am like, okay, this is how it is. So that's my cheat sheet. I always teach everybody that, I work with junior engineers. I say, don't kill yourself. You just get what we're going to do. Google first. Google is your friend. Get Microsoft documentation, read it and keep it. Guess what? You cannot actually even get from Canva. You can say Canva and Microsoft Entra SSO Canva documentation. Let me see if they have. They should have. Are you seeing it there? Boom. Most times the application vendors also have their own. So are you seeing Canva have their own documentation? Again, I don't have to know everything. This is how some of us are able to do this job. Come out like one superhero, and we're getting all the accolades. This is just what we do. Can you see screenshots, guide, step by step, what to do? You don't have to kill yourself. This is how I work till tomorrow, even as an architect. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I just know that by policy, I need to have a naming convention, I need to do blah, blah, blah. But how to configure it, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Documentation is there on Canva. Microsoft has its own documentation. So what do we do? Now we need to log into Microsoft. So the first thing is I want to go into Microsoft and set up this application, right? So I go into here.
Can you proceed to new application?
Thank you, sir. What do I do here?
Then there you want to add to sign in the canvas, right? You can search the app.
Now, guys, we're searching because we can already see that there's documentation of Microsoft and Canva. So we already know that if we search, we'll see. So we search, we see Canva. So we click on Canva, right? What
Yes.
do I do here?
Then you can come here down and create.
No, no, sir. Before I create, remember the name we agreed to call it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will take one of these names. Since we said test, let's use this one that has test.
Yeah.
And then we change the name.
You change
That's
the
it.
name.
Always close
Mhm.
spaces. Make sure you don't have spaces where not necessary. And then you create. Boom.
Then you,
We have set up Canva in Entra. Yes, we haven't configured it, but we have set it up in Entra. It's coming. Microsoft is doing the work at behind. That's it. That's the application. Okay. All right.
thank you.
Thank you. So, sir, you can mute. Let somebody else go. Can somebody tell me how to configure what next to do? Um, um, what else should I do here? Before we go on, let's go back to Entra. Remember, we didn't create the group on Entra, right? Because we'll need to assign. So let's come back here, new group, right? Would this be a security group or M365 group? Who wants to tell me? Is this a security group or M365 group? I want to create it. No, it's not an M3. M365 group means that it's going to have Teams, SharePoint. No, it's a security group. We just want to give it permission. Yes, so it's a security group, right? Am I adding roles and this thing? No, for now. Membership type, blah blah blah. Owner, we will add the owner. We forgot to create our second user, so just use only one user now. The same user that we Nana Joko. Okay. We'll also make Nana the owner, or maybe we'll just use another random user that we have here as the owner, and that's it. So if we go back to enterprise application, right, and you can see our FJ Canvas app here, enterprise application, and let me just show you on app registration the copy that I told you that will be there, even though we don't need it for Samuel. So if you come here, you can see it created a copy of itself. So let's go back to enterprise applications and FJ Canvas. Right, so if you come to properties, we're not doing any change here, so that's fine. The logo comes here. We're happy with this. We move to owners, and we now need to add an owner here. Let's use Nana as the owner of the app. That's fine. Users and group. Remember, we said we want to add users, so we select what's that group. I think I still have it here. Yep. So we add the group. You can see this one doesn't have role mapping. Everybody's a user, fine. So that's it. Now we need to come and configure single sign-on, right? So who wants to take over here? What do I do here? Hello, what do I do on this page? Where do I click on this page that's showing?
You select SAML, SAML.
Yes. Okay. And then what next do I do? What else do I do here?
We have to edit the basic configuration.
Yeah. So what do I put here? Don't confuse. I'm trying to trick us. So we don't know, right? So we now need to go into Canva. You get it? So we don't
Yes.
know. Yeah. So I intentionally asked that question because I wanted someone to say that we don't know, we need to go into Canva. So we don't have the entity ID, we need to go into Canva. Again, remember the documentation I talked about. You could also come and read what the documentation says here. You can see Microsoft documentation, very easy peasy. He explains to you, you can see very similar, right? It tells us the right, and then it comes here, changing it to prevent duplicate contact. Log into this on the upper, are you seeing it? Blah 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 domain. Now you can see that there's a prerequisite that needs to happen. Now let me tell you something. In the real world, as the IAM person, you might never have access to domain for domain verification, which is why you need to read documentations before you integrate. You can see here that it's told us that we need to do domain verification, right? Now it's going to be easy for us to do because I have access to domain, I have access to this. But in real life, if you don't have, most times you might not have. So you want to read your documentation so that you can send a request to the team who needs to do the domain verification for you upfront before you start your integration. So I'm going to log into Canva. Thought I had Canva open here. Sorry, I had it. All right. So if you come down here to, sorry, in the right place. Scroll down. Yep, SSO. You can see single sign-on, but it's asking us to do domain verification. So I need to add that domain. Who remembers the domain that we used? fgis.store. So I need to add this domain here. I delete this. And then I submit the domain. Now I need to take this record and add it to my domain so that it can validate it. Again, like I said, you might never have to do that unless you're working for a small company, right? So I know some of you at the end of today, you have small firms that you're going to reach out to. So they will give you access to everything. In proper structured large companies, you won't be the one doing all of this. You need to raise a request to the team that needs to do domain validation. So it's very important you read up around what you need to do. Okay, so I'm going to just do domain validation, just 1 minute. FG stores domain. I'm adding this now in the domain so that it can validate it. FG stores. Any questions, please, so far as we're waiting for the domain to validate the TXE record? But site verification. I X I let's see if that works. Okay, so copy token, sorry, by. All right, so while that's pending, we come to single sign-on and we say set up SSO. Okay, again, they have the guide there for you. Identity provider, we select, and so you see what I told you, that there are so many identity providers, right? Right, so we can select Azure. All right, and then we say, it says view your SAML configuration instructions. I'll open that in another tab, and I will say next. Now it's asking me for config, so I need to go here and copy okay, so we come here. I need it to give me, so it's not giving me, it's not giving me the entity ID to take, but it's asking me for the one for Microsoft. So that's fine. Since I have that, I'll go to Microsoft, come here, and I would download. Remember the metadata file I told you about? This one, right? Straight up here. Yeah. I need to, it's not giving me the meta, maybe because the domain is not validated. Sorry. I'm enjoying this because this is how it works in real life. Oh, done. Okay, so Azure next. It's not. You need to give me your own. Add your own. I can't add because we don't. They're not tell you how to reach out the book. Okay, I'm just gonna copy here first. Login URL, sorry. Login URL. This would go to, this will go to this. This happens very look for a label that issuer URL. Like issuer URL. Oh, sorry, this one. Okay, guys, this is a bit. Just like I told you guys, I haven't done Canva before, so I'm also surprised. Public certificate. The challenge I have, it's not giving me what we're supposed to put on Entra. So can I just go, let's go through the documentation and see where are we going to get this. So this is what we're looking for, this one. We need this information that is read here. Where are we going to get that from the document? Further down, copy, you need them to complete login URL, enter identifier. Yes, we've done that. So you see, it says we should copy the login URL, the enter identifier. That's what we came here to copy, which is this and this. Right? We copied that. It came back. It says set up Canva. Log into Canva, create this. Then it says set up. Okay. paste your this, paste your this, public certificate, paste your certificate. That's fine. So let's go to certificate. Certificate is here. This is certificate, edit here, and then come here and download it, right? Base 64. Okay, I'm going to stop now, guys. Do you want me to step back like 3 and take you guys again? I know that I just feel like some people are lost. The most. Yes, please recap. Thank you. Okay. If you guys can just unmute yourself, it will make it easier for me. I don't have to switch screen. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Now, someone directed us to the point where we came here. We couldn't make progress, right? Because Entra is saying, I need this field. I require this field from you. And this field is only gotten from when from Canva itself. So we had to go and log into Canva, right? And when we logged into Canva, to be sure my laptop is charging. Okay. When we logged into Canva, we went to SSO, came here. Canva said we should validate the domain. We've sent that. We don't have control over how DNS propagates, so we're waiting for that to happen. And then we came here and added IDP provider. Remember, when we added Entra, and then we have this field to populate, right? So it said SSO or login URL from Entra. It says this address will tell you how to reach your IDP. Remember, IDP means identity provider. Look for a label that says SSO URL, login URL, or ACS URL. So if you come to Entra, can you see it here? If you scroll down, you will see it is called SSO login URL. That's it there. So we just clicked here, copy, and we went back to Entra and Canva and we pasted it. It came here, it says this helps us identify and look for a label that says entity ID or issuer URL. We came back again, Entra ID identifier. That's it. We came and we pasted it. Now it's asking for the certificate for the token encryption. Download your certificate and paste the content here. So if we go back to here, if we click, so remember this is where the certificate is. If we edit it, this is the certificate here, active. You can see it. There's 3 dots here. Click on the 3 dots and say download base 64. It would, sorry, it would download it in your download folder. So all I need to do is go to my download folder and open that certificate, which is here, and I'm going to open it with a notepad so that I can copy it out. So this is the certificate, right? And I'm going to copy it from here and copy up to here, Control C, and come back to Canva and paste it here. Boom. That's it. All right, and save and next. I know it won't work. I don't know where. So it's saying test your SSO, right, to sign in. But before we do that, I know that on Entra is not complete. So I need to go to the documentation to see where am I going to get that settings to add. Okay, now this documentation is poor. It's not telling me how to fill this red place. Are you seeing what it's saying here, guys? It's saying the identifier and reply URL are pre-populated and the app and don't need to be updated. Okay, so let's go. Maybe there's something on Entra we're not doing well. So if we So you see why I said those are my cheat sheets. I read the documentation and it tells me what to do. I come here and I say edit. Oh, okay. It's using Canva as its own identifier. Sorry. Okay, that's what it wants to do. All right, so let's save. So guys, documentation from the application is always very helpful, even when things don't make. So ideally, I should have seen settings there, but it told me the documentation here. You can see it, mention it here clearly, right? After the setup, it says identifier and reply URL, which is these two guys, right? It says are pre-populated via the app and don't need to be updated, right? So okay, so we're done. You set this up, and that's it. It says it's talking about something else here now. It wants you optional if you are not a multi-team organization. The value for the team ID will need to be matched to each team. All right, I don't have, let's go to teams. Do I have teams? I know I have teams, but I think I just have two people here. I'm not a multi-team. Let's see if we have issues, we would troubleshoot it together. That's the essence. So let's go back to SSO and test. Okay, test SSO. So you can see it's prompting me. What's that email account we created? This is Nana Coco, right? Let's see. I just want to be sure of this name, so I'm going to go back to enter and be sure. Okay. This is her name. So the fact that it landed me here already shows that it knows that I'm using Entra, right? The fact that it's prompting me for password means that our configuration is making progress, because before I will use Canva with my email. Now, there were some issues, so fine. Please reach out to Canva support. They're saying go to your identity provider to fix these errors, then we try. So it's seeing some errors on our Entra side. That's fine. I think it is domain validation that needs to, I don't know why this is still not, let me just refresh here. It's still pending. I think it is this because it needs to validate the domain before we'll be able to use it to log in. Again, let me just be sure that I wrote the correct thing. This is LOI. It's the capital I. It's the L. But let me be sure of the domain validation, please. 1 minute. L, capital, capital I. Is this thing L or I, guys? This thing L or I. The font is confusing me. Is this an L or an I? You can see is this is capital, this is small letter L, this capital L. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake in the, yeah, so it is small L. and capital I. L, capital I, small I, X, 5W, I, S, is N, X, K, F, K, B, Y, 9, F, A, 2, J, A, A, N.
Why are you pasting this URL?
It's on my domain. Is like I said, you're not going to. It's the domain provider. It has nothing to do with Entra. It's your domain provider. It's not.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying in a typical organization, you would not be required to do. All you'll be required to do is send an email to the person who manages your domain provider. If you get what I'm saying, your domain provider can be GoDaddy, it can be HostGator, it can be WhoGoHost. So you know that at whatever.com or at this.ng, that platform that hosts it is called a domain provider or a domain register. That's where I'm working on. Make sure on this video I finished troubleshooting. While I'm waiting for the domain DNS to populate, I want to pull up the project work for us to see what your project is going to be like. If you guys will agree with me, that's a good approach. While we're waiting for domain population, just so that in case anybody wants to drop off and then watch the video, they can. But then I would like you to ask questions about the project. So I'm going to pull up what the project is. I want to believe. Let me know you can see my screen, please. Please, can you see? I was pulling up the project before I removed it. Can you see? Okay. So what's our project about? We're going to, like I said, we're going to have two projects. This first project is for identity, and then we'll have I call it a mini project that will infuse identity, data, and AI. But this is the main project. For example, if we don't have time to do the second project, I have told the program coordinator you'll be rated based on this because this is a combination of everything. The only difference with this project is that there's no data and AI in it, which I am hoping that we will still get to do the sub project because it's going to be very interesting. But in the event where we don't have things about time and how fast you guys are able to resolve and turn out, and because it's Textiler's anniversary, they always try to wrap up everything before the anniversary. So my point is take this project serious. Take this project like this was the only one you'll be rated on, right? And that you don't have another option to get additional mark, right? Okay. You read the disclaimers because they are all fictitious. If there's any relation with this and anything, it's just pure coincidence. So what's this project about? There's a company called Oringo Limited, right? And they offer software as a service solution to their clients. This company is transitioning to a cloud-first model and they want to use AWS. However, they want to centralize the identity on AWS using Microsoft Entra because Microsoft Entra gives all the additional flares and flavors and security, right? Now, as part of the security mandate and compliance, Oringo Limited is supposed to align its access management architecture with DORA, ISO, and NIST, right? Around the keyword here, access management. Now, the organization is looking at adopting the zero trust framework to enhance governance and ensure strong compliance posture. You have been appointed as the IAM consultant, and your job is to implement a comprehensive SSO integration and zero trust model for Oringo. Your responsibility includes integrating AWS with Microsoft Entra using Samuel authentication. So I've been nice enough to tell you what type of authentication. Are you seeing it? Configuring user provisioning, enforcing zero trust principles, and ensuring compliance with DORA, ISO, and NIST. What's your task? 1. Integrate AWS with Entra using Samuel SSO and Entra as your IDP, and AWS as your service provider. Configure auto user provisioning from Entra ID to AWS based on departmental Entra groups. Implement role-based access control by defining roles such as admin access, dev read only, and financer view. Now, because you people are multiple people on a tenant, again, please listen to this carefully, and I'm happy where there are misinterpretations to jump on your team calls and explain. Now, because, for example, you have some tenants where 4 teams are using the tenant, I expect you to have these roles named as your own. Because if all of you use this role name, somebody will say it cannot create, and then somebody will cry for me. I'm having issue. The role is not created, and meanwhile you're using. It's telling you that there's a duplicate. You understand? So it means that if, for example, team A, B, C, I know that these 3 teams are inside one tenant. If team A is fast enough and creates these roles, and TB, because I want to use this exact name because they say that that's what is in the document, it will not agree and they'll be getting error. So feel free to come up with what your own role is, but you can be anything. So it can be admin profile, admin dev. Are you getting what I'm saying? But look at the key thing here. The key thing here is access for admin, read only for dev, viewer for finance. Do you get that? So you can choose to call finance something else, but the function is a viewer function. Please. Enforce zero trust security controls, including MFA, conditional access policy, device compliance, geographic restriction, risk-based signing. I know we haven't had time. Time is going to touch it. I am happy to jump into team by teams to explain these things for the zero trust, for the security MFA. And for those who want to wow me and blow my mind and can do it on their own, please be my guest. Now, what are your deliverables? There's an expectation that you will submit an architecture blueprint. What's a blueprint? It's a visual representation of the communication workflow between Entra and AWS. So just looking at the blueprint, I want to see AWS talks to Entra, talks to roles, which, blah, blah. Just a simple, you don't even have so many things talking to each other here. I think it's just 3 or 4 elements here, but in a visual flow that explains that. So that would be one deliverable. A functional demonstration, right? So it's either you guys show a video evidence, or because I know that textilers always ask for demo, if it's either on the day of the event you want to play your video where that showed that you tested it and it could log in, right? Or there and there in the environment live, you want to log in for us and get. Why I put videos, you can see what happened with Canva here. We're still troubleshooting. So I don't want people to freak out because maybe one drama just happened in the environment and their live demo cannot work, and then they freak out. So if you set it up and during your test is working, you might now want to create a video that shows the end-to-end of the SSO flow. It's fine, it's acceptable. So during your presentation, when it gets to live demo, you will say, we pre-recorded the SSO login flow and would like to play it. I would explain to the team of judges that that's acceptable by us because this is a training, and we all know as tech people, issues happen. Last week, Saturday, I was in a community and they were doing a presentation and something happened. Somebody's demo didn't work and the person just, you know, panicked. So if that makes sense, so it's allowed. Now, I would like to also see your design decision documents. How did you arrive at whatever decision that you used to come up? I have done design decisions twice for you, your naming conventions, your mapping. Why did you come up with certain decisions that you took, right? Then a run book, which is screenshots for us to know that you did it, even though I know that you are the one that did it, because right now there's no place that this exists, you're going to be spawning up AWS for the first time, but we want a design, a run book. So what's a run book? A implementation procedure that will say this, just everything we've done here. So you go to enter, take a screenshot, click on create the name, take a screenshot of the configuration, claims, attributes. The reason why I'm saying this is that, again, at the end of this project, when you would be, I'll be working with you after the project to translate everything you have learned to optimize your CV. This will become our evidences. So all you need to do is take that document, rename it to your rename it, and then save it on your profile or in a repository that shows that you will. So if you go to LinkedIn, for example, you will see that when you put skills, you can upload a document. So that's your evidence. If you go to Upworks, for example, and you create a profile, you will see where it asks you profile evidence of what you've done. That will be your evidence. So what you're telling the person is, I know how to do this. This is a screenshot of what I've done. And because these are not live environments, we can share those documents. That, again, like I said, gives you that extra edge, right? So that's why it's important, because in the real world, your run book, your blueprint, your design decision documents are the things that show that you know this stuff. Now, again, we want a compliance mapping table. Why am I so big on compliance? Many people just think we do tech because we like to do it. Trust me, organizations will not obey security if compliance and regulation was not on their neck. So you need to start understanding what drives what you do. It also helps you do what you do better. So what I want us to do is, you will go into DORA ISO NIST. You can choose to focus on one, you can choose to focus on the three. Pick out the requirement on this compliance and show a table and explain what in your SSO is addressing that. So for example, you will see somewhere in one of the compliance, one of them will say maybe have a multi-factor authentication or have a second, sorry, they'll call it second factor authentication, blah, blah, blah. You will say how you have set up second factor authentication, a screenshot, and show that that addresses that compliance requirement. Because again, in the real world, when the auditors come, for example, AWS in every environment is a tier 0. It's a tier 0 environment. There must be MFA. They would ask, where is that? And then you show, oh, we used Entra to do single sign-on, and this is the MFA policy. So I'm giving you what will happen in real life. And then on the last thing you do is your presentation. So on the day of presentation, right, you'll be presenting all of these things to us, which is your blueprint, a demonstration of the flow, your design decision documents, your run book. You can refer to your run book to say, this is our run book, this is how we implemented it, and then your compliance table. And then you'll be doing a presentation, again, talking us through this journey, how you did set up SSO. We'll be rating you through these measurement metrics, right? Clear presentation, right? So we've given you a business scenario. We need you to explain what SSO is, your understanding about SSO, clarity, alignment with and your understanding and awareness. You need to explain what your design and blueprints end to end. What is Entra, why you're using Entra, SAML authentication. We need you to explain all of that. Then the SSO configuration and role mapping that you did. So what type of role mappings you did and why you did that kind of role mapping and how it aligns to the question, and the security controls that you put in place, the auto provisioning strategy that you took, and then the compliance and governance mapping, right? Again, you can see that we've even gone ahead to give you some clues. So under DORA, if you go to the requirement for operational resilience, is where you see something related. For ISO, if you go to the requirement on access control and secure authentication, are you seeing it? And for NIST, if you go to role management audit, so I'm giving you some clue on this compliance and regulation, where to look for. And then we will overall your presentation, cooperation from the team, ability to communicate with us, and your engagement and professionalism. We'll be checking all of that. So this discovery sheet, I have put supporting documents here. How? Number one, you already have access to Entra, so that's not an issue. The next thing is AWS. So you can see here, if you click here, there's a very detailed document how you can create a free tier AWS tenant. right? You can create a free tier. Now, let me tell you the good thing. You can set up one free tier, practice, you people bash yourselves together, make all the mistakes, and you can choose to now create another instance. Remember what I told you, as long as it has a different entity ID, you can have multiple instances on the same tenant, right? As long as it has different entity ID names. So AWS allows us to have a free tier account, and then so if you click here, there's step by step how you can create that free tier account, and then you can now do the integration. I put documentations here to help you. You can see how I went to documentation of Canva. If not, I would have been battling my head, because what I know is that when you go to the application, it will give you entity ID. Canva is now telling me that no. So even though I'm seeing an error, I'm going to now troubleshoot it. So lots of documentation here to help you, and you can leverage on AI and whatever tool that can help you understand how to do this. But at the end of the day, you can see would have touched roles, would have touched identity creation, because you have to create the users who are the admins, would have touched single sign-on, would have touched MFA conditional access policy. My excitement about this project, again, like I said, is that since DORA and NIST was launched early this year, there's a huge demand on organizations to do this, right? I have been doing this for organizations in the last 8-9 months. So, and like I gave you a simple environment that can show you how to make good money through Upworks doing this. Again, I wish somebody has put in the chat to confirm whether I'm just boboing or not. I would have, if I were you, I would have checked it to say, oh, Joy, what you're saying is not true. Just check what I'm saying and you will see it. Lots of integration that you can do. So I know that beyond these 8 weeks, Textilers would have made so much impact in you to take you to that next level and start practicing and showing real value. Lots of people, when they finish boot camp, you need to hear them cry, where can I practice? Where can I do intern? You have enough to put you in the market already. And as a freelancer, you can start, getting more experience. Any questions, please? Yes, please, we don't do projects as individual, because in real life, you'll be working with a colleague. Remember, we're teaching you soft skills here. I know that people are going to be overbearing. I know you're going to have people irritate you. I know you're going to have people not show up. I know you're going to have people annoy you. That's the essence. You have to find a way to work with people. That's why you can see that we make sure every week we teach you different types of soft skills. So I encourage everybody not to be that person that is frustrating in the team. I encourage you not to be that annoying person. However, you need to work as a team. Now, if somebody is not making themselves available, you can't keep dragging the person, right? But you try as much as possible to put people along. But if one person is not showing up for meetings, one person is not responding to meetings, please make sure that you can move along and then keep update, because there's no time. Like I said, this can be completed in the next 1 week, 2 weeks, if you guys are serious, because we're hitting the ground running. We're doing data and AI, and data and AI is another level on its own. When we start data and AI, trust me, identity is all gone. We're only just going to be talking about user access and all of that. So I would recommend that you hit the ground running. And if there are people not showing up, please delegate yourselves, set up what you can set. Find, if you know that you have good leadership skills, bring everybody together. If you know you are the one that you've understood the design documentation, start putting a draft. Say, guys, look at this, I put a draft of this, what do we think? People will challenge it, people will say back and forth, whether you like it or not. Checklist done. If you're a person that your skill is putting people together, be coordinating, following up with time, following up like a project manager, but then you are still doing it, right? Where are we to submit? I will create, you're not submitting anything, you are going to present it, right? So on the last day you present it. But so within documents, it's saying accept and save the sign and settings there. Accept and save. Oh, it was me. I said no, I'll save later. Hey, com. Okay. Then finally reply, your app probably will be there, but don't need to be updated. Okay. So we did that. So if we come back here, let's just verify our configuration. Oh, it's still showing. No wonder. It's not showing the. Hold on. No wonder. Okay. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to use incognito mode so I can run an inspection. So I'll say Canva. Oh no, we're doing tests. So I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do what I wanted to do. I can't find the Canva that was testing. It didn't disappear. Many browsers. I can't find. I think it was here. Okay, so guys, can you see that the domain is verified now? For those still on the call, you can see I'm going to be speaking like I don't even have people so that the people watching, so you can see it's verified. All right, so we're going to go back to single sign-on. Single sign-on is on. Test. Let's go back and test and see if our test will work. Still some issues. This is testing. Go to your power to fix this error. Then try. I'm trying to. Let me try using this. How to on Canva.com. Okay, here we go. Continue with work email. Sorry, I want to inspect this so I can see the traffic. Sorry. Network. Okay. Continue with work email. Go here, copy this email. Come up here. Okay. Making clear. Okay. You creating a Canva account with Nana G at FG. So create account using SSO. Okay. Password. Looks like you don't have access. You run into an issue processing your client. What's the error? The error here. Payload. Sorry. This one. Okay. Yes. Completely. Um, Like you don't have access. Hold on. Guys, hold on. Where's the entrance? Did we added Nana to the group now? She's a member. I have a member of this group. Okay. Member of this group. I okay. When I will reach out girls looks like you don't have access. Please go back to Canva and see how is that to sign up with SSOZ. Yeah. Approve who has to use SSO to sign in. Ocean members can log in. Taking their personal connection history. Sure that this is correct. This will be okay. Hold on, there's no metadata file, sorry. So come here, come here. This is the metadata file. This is the copy. I want to save as preparation. Save, come here, upload, download, open. Yeah, that's it, guys. It's working. I still have people on the call, and I'm just excited for myself. All right, so you can see it's working. So what was the issue? We missed a step. So I'm going to keep talking like I'm the only one on the call because I'm not getting response. So if you come back here under the SSO
We're
settings.
on the call. Please, where is the arrow? Where the arrow?
Okay, let me go back, man. You can see it's saying SSO successful, right? Remember, we were getting this error. Remember?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Recall?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, what did I do? I just came back to look through the configuration. So, I came back here and everything is fine. But I saw here metadata file upload. So, we forgot to upload the file. So, if you go to Entra, let's go back to Entra. Here, are you seeing this place? App Federation metadata URL. Can you see that? So if you click here, it will copy
Yes.
it. If you click here to copy it, just open a browser, paste it as a URL. This is the file, how it will open. Right click and say save as. call it anything, right? Name it anything. It should be an XML file you save, and then you go back to your application. And then I said choose file, upload, and then you see it say we've extracted all the required fields from your field and pre-filled below. And that's one. As soon as I saved, I came back to test, and boom, SSO testing successfully. So what do? We now go to login as a normal user. So I will close this. I will leave this. Let me open another incognito. All right. And so Canva.com, you've logged in as a staff. They told you to use your normal email. So you will come here and say sign up with work email. Sure you get, because we're not using this, we're using work email. And then we'll paste our work email. Let me go and get it here. This is our work email. And then we come back here. And then we continue. And then it says create account using SSO. And that's it. Can you send them? I don't need all of this. Boom, I'm inside Canva. Can you see? Skip this. I don't want this. Boom, the user has access to Canva. We can test again. So a new user comes into the department. Let's go back to Entra. Let's create a new user here. Remember, we had 2 users' name. We want to create another user. There was a user here we put in called Florence Joko. Okay, so let's come Florence Joko, Florence J. Remember her domain, change it this. We will use, I'll just create my own password. Let's see, be sure what I created. Okay. Let me use at just in case. Okay, next. We don't need a license. We put up with a license. Next. Finish adding. So I want to add this user to a group. I go to groups. Sure. Groups. Where's that our media group? Okay, so we add her there. Florence. And that's it. I've added Florence, right? And if I come to this group, I'll see 2 members. Yes, Florence and Nana. Good. So that's all. I come here, I open another incognito window just so that, because of my session cache, Canva.com. Oh, it's still saying this user, so I need to sign out just. Okay, log in. I would say continue with another account, sign up with work email. Yes, I just don't want to make mistake with the email. Let me copy Florence. Florence, boom. Create account using SSO. You can see it's not even. Oh no. So it's still taking on. Continue thoughts. Back in career. My browser is still seeing this lady. Let me just close it off. My browser is still caching her timeout. Let's close it. My cache is still. I hope it doesn't still cache. Yeah. Yeah. The moment you get, you're not forgetting what the password was. The 10, sure, 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope that's what it is. See why I don't like passwords. And the 10 J's. 5. Sorry, guys. Hey, password. Forgetting my password. Okay. Oh, I'm asking to reset password. Sorry. See, another user. So you can see I've integrated Canva with SSO, and I've had login users and different users. I have another application we can do if anybody's interested. It's called Rebrandly. So it's called Rebrandly. If people are on the call and are willing to participate, we can do this. And I won't say anything. I'll need people on the call to join me. Tell me what to do. Let's set up SSO on Rebrandly. Remember what I said, your cheat sheet is go to the internet, find the documentation from the site. And thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate you. And like I said, don't forget to be active in your team, do your projects, do your assignments. And in the next class, we'll be looking at multi-factor authentication, conditional access policy, and password protection. Thank you.